Well, the debate over nuclear power is back in the news with the admission of Energy Department official Ward Sproat on Tuesday that it would cost taxpayers $90 billion to open and operate the nation's first nuclear waste dump. Speaking after a congressional hearing, Sproat added the dump at Yucca Mountain in Nevada would open only in 2020. It was originally estimated to cost $58 billion and open in 1998. Well, our next guest has been described as one of the Western world's most influential energy thinkers. He's also a leading opponent of nuclear power. Amory Lovins is co-founder, chair, and chief scientist of Rocky Mountain Institute in Colorado. He's consultant physicist, MacArthur Fellow, and recipient of numerous awards, including the Right Livelihood Award. Lovins advised the energy and other industries in countries around the world, including here in the U.S. He invented the hybrid hypercar in '91 and has written 29 books, including Soft Energy Paths, Natural Capitalism, Small is Profitable, and Winning the Oil Endgame. Amory Lovins joins us here in our Firehouse studio. Welcome to Democracy Now!
Thank you.
It's good to have you with us. Well, talk about nuclear power. Why do you feel it's not an option given the oil crisis?
Well, first of all, electricity and oil have essentially nothing to do with each other. And anybody who thinks the contrary is really ignorant about energy. Less than 2% of our electricity is made from oil. Less than 2% of our oil makes electricity. Those numbers are falling, and essentially all the oil involved is actually the heavy, gooey bottom of the barrel you can't even make mobility fuels out of anyway. What nuclear would do is displace coal, our most abundant domestic fuel, and this sounds good for climate, but actually expanding nuclear makes climate change worse for a very simple reason. Nuclear is incredibly expensive. The costs have just stood up on end lately. The Wall Street Journal recently reported that they're about 2 to 4 times the cost that the industry was talking about just a year ago. And the result of that is that if you buy more nuclear plants, you're going to get about 2 to 10 times less climate solution per dollar, and you'll get it about 20 to 40 times slower than if you buy instead the cheaper, faster stuff that is walloping nuclear and coal and gas, all kinds of central plants in the marketplace. And those competitors are efficient use of electricity and what's called micropower, which is both renewables, except big hydro, and making electricity and heat together in factories and buildings, which takes about half of the money, fuel, and carbon of making them separately, as we normally do. So nuclear cannot actually deliver the climate or the security benefits claimed for it. It's unrelated to oil, and it's grossly uneconomic, which means the nuclear revival that we often hear about is not actually happening. It's a very carefully fabricated illusion, and the reason it isn't happening is there are no buyers. That is, Wall Street is not putting a penny of private capital into the industry, despite 100+% subsidies.
Why?
It's uneconomic. It costs, for example, about 3 times as much as wind power, which is booming. Let me give you some numbers about what's happening in the marketplace, because that's reality as far as I'm concerned. I really take markets seriously. 2006, the last full year of data we have, nuclear worldwide added a little bit of capacity, more than all of it from uprating old plants, because the new ones they built were smaller than the retirements of old plants. So they added 1.4 billion watts. Sounds like a lot. Well, it's about one big plant's worth worldwide. That was less than photovoltaics, solar cells added in capacity. It was a 10th what wind power added. It was a 30th to a 40th what micropower added.
What's micropower?
Again, it's renewables other than big hydro, plus co-generating electricity and heat together, usually in industry. In 2006, micropower for the first time produced more electricity worldwide than nuclear did. 1/6 of the world's electricity is now micropower, 1/3 of the new electricity. In a dozen industrial countries, micropower makes anywhere from 1/6 to over half of all the electricity. This is not a fringe activity anymore. China, which has the world's most ambitious nuclear program, by the end of 2006 had 7 times that much capacity in distributed renewables, and they were growing at 7 times faster. Take a look at 2007, in which the U.S. or Spain or China added more wind capacity than the world added nuclear capacity. The U.S. added more wind capacity last year than we've added coal capacity in the past 5 years put together. And renewables, other than big hydro, got last year $71 billion of private capital. Nuclear, as usual, got zero. It is only bought by central planners with a draw on the public purse. What does this tell you? I mean, what part of the story does anybody who take markets seriously not get?
And yet, well, the media clearly in this country doesn't get it, because it is raised over and over again by the candidates. I mean, it seems that Senator McCain has a favorite number, 100 years in Iraq, also hoping for 100 more new nuclear power plants. He had said something about he doesn't want to lose the knowledge of building, since the last one was built more than 30 years ago. The people are dying who would build it, so we've got to rush and build them now.
Well, you could say that's already been lost, in the sense that most of a nuclear plant built now in the U.S., if there were any, would have to be imported, which, by the way, means we buy it in weak U.S. dollars, which is part of the incredible cost escalation we've seen. Moody's latest number is $7,500 a kilowatt. That's, again, as the Journal said, about 2 to 4 times the numbers that were being bandied about just last year by promoters.
And Barack Obama, while he hasn't laid out a plan for building, he is a big campaign contributor, Exelon, and has supported the expansion of nuclear power. And, of course, we heard what President Bush has to say.
Actually, I thought what Senator Obama said was explore, which is different. And you will find major environmental groups saying something like explore or consider, but they will also say very carefully it has to be competitive, it has to be cost effective, and clearly that doesn't even pass the giggle test. A new nuclear plant, according to Moody's, would send out electricity for about 15 cents a kilowatt hour, which is half again as much as the average residential rate. And that doesn't even count for delivering it to your house. And I think if nuclear plants were built, which I don't think is likely, you would see incredible rate shock and a big political reaction.